Hello. Today on the podcast, I have founder, president, and creative director Stacey Montgomery of Stacey M Design. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I told you before when we were talking, Stacey had pizza for us and some wine, so we've been chatting a little bit, which has been really fun. But I really wanted to start, so I don't know how you started
Stacey M
Design. Yeah.
Okay, well, I've had my company for a long time, for well over 20 years. It's gone through a couple of different names. But it started out as really a hobby years ago. I wanted to create my own Christmas card because I couldn't find a Christmas card that I really, really loved. I've always been really big into cards and paper and that type of thing. So one year I was looking for Christmas cards, couldn't find one that I liked, and I decided to just draw my own. And I did that. I sent it to family and friends. I got great feedback. And some of my friends suggested you should sell these.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it got started. I started as a line of Christmas cards. So then it developed into children's party invitations, note cards, birthday cards, just a whole line of stationery. That I developed different products based on what was going on in my friends' lives.
Wow.
So when I first started, my friends were at that kind of stage in their lives where they started to get married and have children. So they asked me to do baby shower invitations, birth announcements, party invitations, and so I really got into the children's stationery business based on that. So over the years, I kind of thought about why it was so important to me to have a card that reflected what I look like,
Right.
And my personality. And I realized that I wasn't the only one that felt that way. Everybody likes to see things out in the world that looks like them. Mm-hmm. So I'm African American. So it's not only important for African Americans to have Christmas cards and stationery and whatever that look like them, that looks like us, but everybody feels that way.
Right.
So I like to use the example of the girl who has red hair and wears glasses.
My friend Laura, who was on the podcast last week,
She's red hair and wears glasses. Exactly. So that little girl or adult wants to see products out in the world that look like her. So I decided to expand my line so that people could order things that had their skin tone, that had their hair color. I offered a variety of hairstyles. You could add a bow, you could add glasses. And then a few years ago, I decided to add an option of hearing aids. So it was all about, offering products that reflected the world that we live in. And so then, over the last couple of years, I thought about, okay, so why is this important?
Right.
Why do people care that, they see images of themselves? And that's when it kind of hit me that the reason, 20 years ago that I wanted to find a card that looked like me, the reason that everybody wants to find products out in the world that reflect them, it's all about self-confidence.
Yeah.
It's just really empowering to turn on television or go to a store and find a product that you can relate to because it looks like you.
Right. And why do you think, what about not being able to find those products causes a loss of self-confidence or maybe insecurities?
Because we see images of others and not you. You question why. Why am I not good enough? Why is the way that I look not reflected in the media? It's not reflected on television. It's not reflected on the shelves of stores. Why is that? Why is that person good enough that they get to be featured, but I don't?
Why am I not good enough?
Why am I not good enough? So that's where there's a link between images in the world, images in the media, and how people feel about themselves.
Wow. So how many years ago was that? Was the first one that you made?
It was over 20 years ago.
So have you been drawing your whole life?
I've been drawing my whole life. I remember back when I was in elementary school, writing books and illustrating them. I've always liked art class.
Back in elementary school.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I thought about that recently, like in the last few months, about these books I used to make, and I wish I still had them. They may still be in my mother's house someplace, but yeah, I remember drawing the illustrating books, staple them together.
Oh my gosh.
I always have been into art, into drawing, into crafts. But I just love drawing. I love art.
Right.
I love art, yeah.
So drawing is your main form of art?
Exactly. I used to, when I was a kid, and mostly when I was a kid, I was really into crafts. So I would, my mother would always, buy all kinds of craft kits. I used to, paper mache was a big thing when I was a kid. I used to make all kinds of paper mache things.
Fun. Like around the balloon.
Exactly, around the balloon, all that type of thing. I used to, she used to buy those kits where you can weave like pot holders and just all kinds of things. She would always buy those different kits for us. So I've always been into crafts, but now I just really just love to draw. And I have a particular style. It's really simple. I call it like, stick figures on steroids. It's
there's
just,
so much more than that.
Well, slightly. I mean, if you look at my characters, the faces, the heads are really just a circle.
Yeah.
The eyes are just ovals. The nose is a little U, and the mouth is a wider U.
Yeah, but if I did that, it would not look like a person.
But yes, they do take some time to draw, but I like the simplicity of the overall look.
And so now, like 20 years later, are you still happy drawing? Does it bring you the same fulfillment that it
does.
did in the beginning?
It does. Yes. I when I finish something, I look at it and I smile. It's like, pat myself on the back,
As you should.
Yeah, because they're just, I generally create happy characters, and, somebody posted on Facebook a couple of days ago something about joy, how important it is to have joy in your life. And that's what I'm all about, joy. Every year, almost every year, I design Christmas cards for my family. And 9.9 times out of 10, the theme is joy.
Really?
Because I just think that's so important. I mean, just going through your life being happy. I mean, nobody's life is perfect. We have our ups and downs. But I talk about this to my son on a regular basis. You got to have that inner joy. You got to find something in this life that gives you joy. And it kind of goes back to that superpower, goes back to just that inner happiness, something which you can go to that's going to make you happy no matter what's going on in the world, because sadness happens, bad things happen, but it cannot consume you. You got to have that something else, which kind of gives your life meaning, gives you joy.
So that's what drawing is for you?
It is. It is.
Or is it art in general?
Art in general.
Yeah.
I like everything. I like things that are pretty. I like things that are cute. When we go, whether it's furniture shopping, if I go clothes shopping, I go whatever, I just like things that look different, kind of, artistic, and it drives my husband crazy. I remember I had, for Isaiah's room, when he was little, I bought these frog-shaped knobs for his closet door. They're like huge frogs, and they were so cute. They're
huge frogs for the closet.
They're like this big. Actually, they may still be on this door. And some friends of ours came over. This was just after he bought the house. They came over, kind of showing him around the house, and he walked in Isaiah's room and sees the frogs. And he said that's so you. Because you'll find, just that little weird thing.
Yeah.
And that's true. I find that little weird thing, and I like it, because it's artistic, it's different,
Is it because too? I mean, I like the little weird things too. Like I get a lot of my friends will bring me one-off weird little tchotchkes.
the weirdness.
Yeah, like the weird things. Or for my birthday, I had a friend who gave me a bunch of handmade stuff. So really gorgeous. Like these earrings were one of the birthday presents.
Oh, okay.
They're handmade. And so by our friend
pretty.
in Virginia, Lindsay. I can't remember that. Blair Essentials Jewelry. You know who I'm talking about, Lindsay and Katie. Anyway, so she got me a bunch of handmade stuff. And so I really appreciate, I think what I appreciate about that is that it's one of a kind.
Right. It's one of a kind. You know, the craftsmanship, it's just unique. And when I talk about superpowers, and we haven't really got into that, but when I talk about, you know, my mission to build self-confidence in kids and what your superpower is and all that, I always use that word unique. It's that thing inside of a person which is unique. So I see the world that way. I mean, you know, we all buy mass-produced things,
right?
You know, which is fine, you know, but things which are handmade, which have or which are just, I don't know, somehow different. You know, I like, you know, for example, I cannot stand this fixture right here. This
you can't stand it? Oh, the fixture.
Yes. You know, and we've been in this house, you know, close to 18 years. And, you know, I wanted to replace it. And I told my husband, you know, we've gone to these lighting stores. I said, we got to have something different.
Yeah, for everyone listening, she's pointing to her dining room light fixture. Yes. And it's just like a very simple, like, bulb with a, like, what would you say, a cone? Yeah.
It's kind of a standard thing.
Yeah,
that,
very
you know,
standard.
Exactly. And I've gone into all these lighting stores and these, like, unique, different looking things. And I'm telling you, at some point, we're going to replace that, you know, maybe a day before we sell the house.
Yeah.
But
why haven't you yet? What's holding you
because it's like probably 18th on the list. You know, there's so many different things. Yeah, I want to do. But yeah, I just like unique things. Like very, very unique things.
So we can talk about now, since we're on the topic of unique. Like, so when did you make the decision to start making your journals? Your children's journal. You can like tell the story behind that. Okay,
so what Miranda's talking about is my series of guided journals. I call them my superpower series. The first one is called What's My Superpower? And I released that in April of last year, April of 2017. But prior to that, I had some hardcover journals that are blank inside. And I had one which is called my Girl Power Journal. And it's blank inside, but the cover has a Supergirl and a whole bunch of like terms that that are empowering. So that particular journal I had for, I don't know, maybe the last 5 years or so. And it sold very, very well. People loved the message. But people also commented that I love it, but my daughter or my niece or whatever, whomever, will not use it. You know, she's not a journaler, she's not a writer. So, you know, I got that feedback from time to time.
Because it's blank inside.
Because it's blank inside. And then going back, you know, 20, 25 years ago when I first started this business, I always had the idea that I would love to have some sort of magazine that features my illustrations. But, you know, I never really did anything with that idea. One, because of the cost related to it. And two, I didn't really have like, okay, so it's another activity magazine. You know, there are a bunch of them. I didn't really have any other reasoning to have it besides the fact that I would love to see my illustrations in the magazine. Excuse me. So then, so in 2016, that idea came back into my mind about having some sort of periodical. But again, I was like, what's the point of this? You know, fast forward to February of 2017, just one day, I mean, it was literally, I remember how it happened. It just hit me in the head. Combined the idea of this hardcover journal, this Girl Power Journal, that people liked, with my idea of some sort of like magazine. So I decided to do a guided journal.
Wow. And it just came to you.
It just came to me one day, and I just kind of whipped through, you know, the pages, the different ideas, different activities. There's writing, there's a short story, there's a poem, there is there's coloring, there's drawing, there's doodling, there's, you know, full-page journaling, you know, short journaling. There's a whole bunch of different activities all related to journaling. And the cover of it has a Supergirl, and it's called What's Your Superpower? So I combined, again, a few different ideas, and one day it just came to me, and I just went with it. I think the idea came to me in kind of mid-February, and I had the books in my hand the first week in April.
Wow.
Yes.
Was that fast?
Yes, it was that fast. I mean, that one was pretty easy because it's had so many things in my head, just came out, and I found a person to lay it out for me and get it ready for press. I had many of the illustrations I already had.
Wow.
And What's Your Superpower? It just came to me.
That's amazing.
So
do you find when you get like that, I would say that was a wave of creativity, right? And so you rode that wave, like, and you executed
I rode that wave.
the hell
Exactly.
out of it, and you got a product in hand. And then did you feel like, okay, where is this going to go? Do you have a vision? Or do you just, because sometimes I feel like I get hit with a creative streak and then I don't necessarily know how it's going to plan out, but I know I need to take advantage of this creative moment and just ride the wave.
Well, I wish I was a better planner.
We all do.
Because, with What's Your Superpower, I had this idea. And I thought it was a good idea. I never doubted that it wasn't a good idea.
Right.
And I never doubted that my customers would like it and that children would like it. So I went with it and it was done. So then after that, I kind of had the thought, okay, what next? Some people asked for one for boys, and just people were asking for different things, and I was still hesitant at that point to commit to doing it on a regular basis, to making it a true periodical, to really making like a magazine. So I didn't. But then I decided, I am going to do another one. So I had the one for the summer. How's Your Summer Going to Rock? And then after that, I decided, okay, it's time to do a boys one. So what makes you so awesome?
And so, what was the summer one again?
How's Your Summer Going to Rock?
How's Your Summer Going to Rock? Right. Oh my God, that's adorable.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I want these.
Exactly. and it's just, so then after that, I decided at the end of 2017, I decided that I was going to make them a periodical to release them quarterly. And each of them has a question as the name, which kind of is a struggle.
Yes.
I kind of went down that question path. Yes. And so
and now you're stuck in it.
Right. Because I feel
committed.
like through the journaling process, you answer that question. Yeah. So that's kind of how, but it's really hard.
Do you come up with the title first and then the journal, or the other way around?
I come up with, the title first. I kind of come up with the theme. So for the boy one, I didn't want it to be What's Your Superpower, kind of the boys version.
Yeah.
I have a hardcover journal, and I call up the Awesome Boy Journal. So I wanted to use the word awesome. So I came up with what makes you so awesome.
Yeah.
And then so then I wanted one that is about the summer, and so How's Your Summer Going to Rock? And the next one, which it comes out this month, is called What Makes You Believe in Yourself.
Wow.
And then the next one is, I don't have a title for, or do I?
Oh, do you?
Or do I? But it's all about celebrating differences.
Oh my gosh, cool.
So I come with kind of the theme that I kind of figure out a title that's in the form of a question, kind of like the game show. Yeah. It has to be in the form of a question. And then I kind of go from there. But all of my books are about self-confidence. And they are all based on the four values of my company, which are self-confidence, compassion, gratitude, and servant. So those themes run throughout all of the books. And they all have a short story. They all have a poem. They all have a interview with a real kid. They all have quotations from real girls or real boys. They all have one journaling activity that has to do with music. They all have 4 pages, which I call Speak Your Mind, write about anything. And then beyond that, each journal has different journaling activities. But yeah, so.
I think it's interesting that your journals are all like based on self-confidence for kids, number one, and I think adults could use those too.
Exactly.
It's relevant beyond age groups. But then, so at any point in your like journal journey,
exactly, journal journey,
did you ever did you ever doubt yourself? Did you
Oh,
ever?
of course.
So what, can you tell me, like, one time or one mistake or one?
Well, okay, so, let me preface my answer by saying my mission is to build self-confidence in kids, and the journals support that mission to help build self-confidence. But I don't expect that if you give a kid my journal, one of my journals, and they go through it, that at the end of the day they will be totally self-confident,
right? And
they'll go on with their lives totally believing in themselves. No, that's not realistic, and that's not what I think will happen. That's not the goal. The goal is to kind of help a child find a place to go when they are experiencing times of self-doubt, whether it's because somebody's been mean to them, they're being bullied, or they didn't do well on a test at school. They have a frenemy situation, drama, in the whole playground thing, or whatever it is, stuff going on at home.
Right. They
kind of have a place to go to where they realize and they remember that despite all of this stuff which is going on outside of me, I'm still great.
That's amazing. I'm still great.
I'm still great.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I have self-doubt all the time, fairly regularly. Just like, for example, when I decided to make these journals a periodical, issue them 4 times a year, I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. So I have to come up with a book after a book after a book. And
inevitably, right?
Exactly. It has to do in a timeline and all of that. And yes, I was like, can I really do this?
Yeah.
Can I come up with these ideas? Can I stick to this theme? Will kids, yes, what's your superpower? That was great. Will they want the second one, and the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one? And excuse me, now as I'm trying to create a curriculum and get these books into schools, will teachers understand what I'm trying to do? Will they buy into it and find it useful? You asked me for one example of self-doubt, and I gave you 85. So yes.
Yeah, there are so many questions, and I think it's important to have the tools to push through those, because every single day there's going to be self-doubt. But then there's going to be actual failures too.
There's going to be actual failures, yes.
And that's important. You have to have the same tools to get through those as well, or setbacks if you don't.
Exactly, setbacks.
Yeah.
Or as some people, and I think this is a good way to look at it, there's nothing in life that's a failure. Everything's a learning experience.
Right. Yeah.
Which
is some real easy shit to say.
Exactly.
But it's a whole other thing to
really, exactly.
And to gain that perspective.
Right. It's a whole mindset thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole mindset thing. Because again, like you said, everybody has failures, and it's easier said than done. But we all need tools to kind of get there. You have the bad experience, you have the failure, or whatever term you want to use to describe it. And how do you get from that feeling of being a failure, of sadness, of anger, or whatever emotions you go through, of feeling worthless or whatever,
right,
to a place where you can move past it? And that is what my guided journal series seeks to do, to try to help give kids the tools so they don't dwell in this bad place for too long, because that leads to that leads to a lack of success. That leads to kids not living up to their potential, because they feel they can't get past this issue. For whatever the issue is, they can't get past this, and so they do not reach their potential. If they have tools to get past these things, it's, they are much more successful in the classroom, much more successful in social situations, much more successful as adults.
So do you think when you were younger, having a journal like this would have helped you get through things? Is that where this part of this comes from?
Yes. I mean, I definitely had, some confidence issues, but, so I was very shy, and, there's things about me that I wasn't happy with. Right. I wasn't great in social situations. I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I kind of felt like an outsider for a number of reasons. So yeah, having something like this would definitely be helpful. And in fact, I think I kind of did. That's where I wrote my stories. I wrote all these books, and a lot of my little stories, illustrated stories, were about, you know, a little girl and her being beautiful, or her like being the cutest, you know, and being a part of this club, you know. So it was kind of like what I did then was kind of what I asked. You know, I give kids the tools to do now.
Okay.
So I prompt them to write about whatever.
Oh, you give them the tools to write their own story.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly.
Wow.
So.
That is amazing. And what has the response been? Like, what about, let's talk about the moms for a moment. Like, because I feel, I don't have kids, but thank God. And if but if I did, and I have a lot of friends that do have, especially young girls, because I feel, and maybe this is not fair to say, but I feel like girls maybe get the brunt of the self-confident issues. I know guys do too, but I know girls especially, like, they can go through a lot of like really severe body issues.
You know, I think, you know, I'm no kind of expert on this, but I do believe that what boys go through is kind of looked over. And I think there is an assumption that girls have all of these issues that they go through that boys don't. That you know, boys, you know, one person even told me when I told her I was releasing What Makes You So Awesome, which is the guided journal for girls. She said to
boys,
me,
right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, which is the guided journal for boys. And I kind of was telling her about it. I was kind of excited, and she totally kind of like took the wind out of my sail, or at least tried to.
Not you.
I mean, not purposely, but she did in a way, you know, because she was like, she dismissed it, and she said that boys are encouraged all their lives, and that is just not true. I am the mother of a boy, and you know. Of course, as his parent, we definitely, you know, I encourage him. His father encourages him. As parents, we encourage him, and I assume that if I had a daughter, which I don't, I would encourage her the same way. But you know, and my son has had confidence issues, you know, for a variety of reasons. And I think it's a mistake to assume that boys don't go through some of the same things that girls go through, or maybe not some of the same things, but they go through their boy
their
things.
version of it.
Exactly. And so we need to be very mindful of that, and don't kind of overlook boys, because there has been a history, you know, in this world of, you know, girls kind of been girls being treated like second-class citizens, you know, in the workplace, in the classroom, and elsewhere, in the home. You know, I'm not denying that reality, but don't assume that boys are born with the tools to kind of be leaders and to be confident, because that just isn't the case.
And like you're saying, you know, your son comes from a loving family with two supportive parents in the same household, and like he's got his own, you know, set of confidence issues, and a lot of teenagers do. I mean, he's a teenager, right?
He's a teenager, yes.
Yeah, and so I feel like that's prime time for kids to be going through that type of situation, regardless. Well, not. So especially even when you have a loving home situation. You know?
It's just a fact of life, I think, for teenagers, for kids. I mean, growing up, you know, I said to one person at one time, we were talking about, you know, how rough it can be to be a kid. It's rough to be a person.
Yes.
You know, from the time you're born to the time that, you know throughout your life, it's rough, because there are all of these outside forces, and some internal forces, but outside forces that, you know, kind of attack you, whether it's, you know, in the media, with the media's, you know, what the media says is beautiful, you know, and that affects both boys and girls, men and women. You know, what the media says is the style today, like what clothes you should wear. You know, what the media says is a good job to have. You know, I mean, there's always these perceptions as to what people should do. What is success? The definition of success.
Right.
You know, there's the media definitely kind of has people kind of boxed. You know, if you do it A, B, and C, you're successful. If you look, you know, this way, and this way, you're beautiful.
Right.
And if you don't, then you're not.
Right. Then you're over here.
Exactly. So it's hard to be a person.
Yes.
It's hard to be a human.
That's why I think your journals are so relevant
Right.
for everyone, not just kids. I mean, I think it's important to give kids the ability, those tools from the beginning, and then to move, you know, like to have those tools from the beginning to carry them on through the rest of your life.
Right.
But like if you don't get those tools in the beginning, which a lot of people don't, I mean,
Right.
or like we all need help. We can all grow in those areas, right? In certain
Right.
areas. So then to like have that reinforced, like I was telling you, I bought that that adult journal, Where You Are Now, or something like that. We found on Amazon,
Right.
but it's the same thing. It's just a guided journal.
Yep.
And it just takes you through and it helps you process.
Right.
Everything.
I think it's all about being kind of intentional.
Yeah.
And reminding yourself of your inner greatness, of your inner beauty, you know, helping you find that inner joy. It's just a reminder in an intentional way. Again, like I said, I you know, my journals, I don't claim that they are a cure for
Right.
every challenge that people face.
They're just a tool.
It's a tool to help you be mindful, help remind you, help you kind of have a place to go back to when you do face those challenges.
So what has the response been? Like, what was the response to the boy journal?
It was really good. I mean, you know, it's interesting because, you know, like I said, I have a son, but it wasn't immediately in my mind to do one for boys. I guess because I'm a girl.
Yeah.
So, and you know, realistically, my client base over the years, you know, has been girls, moms buying things for their daughters. So I kind of like cater to that client base. But many people ask me for journals for boys, and again, it goes back to the reality that girls I mean, boys suffer self-confidence problems
Right.
just as much as girls. So the response has been great. I mean, parents have told me that you know, that their kid really loves it. That it has encouraged conversation.
Oh, that's good.
You know, that's kind of like, I love that. You know, that based on some questions and some activities inside the guided journal, it has caused them to talk to their parents about a particular issue.
Right.
I had a workshop with a group of brownies in the fall.
And how old? They were young.
Oh,
weren't
they were young. I think there was one first grader.
Oh my goodness.
And then I think most of them were third graders, but there was like definitely a first grader, maybe one or two second graders, and then a bunch of third graders. And it was a lot of fun. We did the Supergirl anthem, which was a lot of fun. We did several different activities, but we also did activity on letter to bully.
Oh.
And that was very interesting because again, these were young kids.
Right.
They were like, I think aged like 6 to 8. And they were very, we would call it energetic.
That's a nice way.
Yes,
to put it.
they were very sweet, very cute. They were full of energy, as you expect, you know, a 6, 7, 8-year-old girl to be. And they were acting silly. So it was a lot of fun going through the activities. And then the last, one of the last activities was the page in the book that's called Letter to Bully. And so I introduced the page, kind of talked about it a little bit, and they all got so quiet. And they were so attentive.
Oh wow.
And so I gave them some time to write a letter to somebody who was mean to them. And it was very, very interesting, very, very sad, and very, very, I mean, I think in some ways therapeutic, because they all had something to say, you know, about somebody who was mean to them and how it made them feel, and et cetera. And I encouraged them to take their books home and show their parents, and then hopefully have a conversation. And so that's one of the things that one of the reasons I think these journals are so helpful to both the kid and the parent, because it helps the parent understand what's going on in the kid's life, which the kid didn't necessarily share with them initially for whatever reason.
Right.
And I have a customer who bought journals for her 2 daughters and herself. And her daughters were both like they were teenagers, like 16, 17, 18.
Okay.
They're really outside my target age group. But she thought it would be great to do it with them, all 3 of them do them together. And she reported that, it was just a great experience because it causes conversation.
Yes.
Now, I have to say that, journaling, can be a very private affair. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily say that, have your daughter or your son or your niece or nephew, whoever the child is, write and tell them they have to share it with you.
Yeah.
It's really a personal experience, but you can ask them questions or ask them to share, mm-hmm. or maybe they will on their own want to share. But and I found, at least what people have told me, that more often than not, kids on their own choose to share with their parents.
They do choose to share.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting because I've always kept a journal, and I still have them. Like I have a little mini volume mm-hmm. set now mm-hmm. of my journals, but they were always like, even when I was younger, like in 2nd grade, I hid them. Mm-hmm. My mom probably always knew where it was, but I thought I was hiding.
Right.
Like I was never gonna share that
mm-hmm.
to anybody, and I go back and read them now, and I have a couple of friends who have done the same, and like we joke about it, like how silly those things were in there. But then some of it is actually like, it's honest.
Yes.
I feel like when you're young, no matter what your situation, you want to have something or someone you can trust with your mm-hmm. secrets, right? Like that's
right, and that's what the journal is.
Yeah.
It is a thing that you can share with, and you
right.
don't have to feel, you don't feel judged.
Right.
You won't get punished, mm-hmm. And you won't get a bunch of questions. It's something just to get stuff out of your head into this thing.
Yes.
And the thing about the guided journal, my guided journals, is that it's kind of that, but it's not only a place where you kind of write down very personal and very secret things. Mm-hmm. That is part of it. Mm-hmm. But some things are just kind of like more fun things, more just all about me types things. So it can be used as a secret place, but it can also be used as just kind of a fun place.
Right.
And, I encourage people to respect the privacy of others, but I don't think it's out of line for a parent to kind of ask about some of the things that are in the book. Yeah. Especially since the parent, would have looked at the book ahead of time and kind of knows what types of questions are asked.
Right.
So did you work on a page about bullying? Mm-hmm. Do you care to share that with me? Like, have you ever been bullied? Has anybody ever been mean to you?
Right.
And, the child may say no or say yes, but I don't want to talk about it. Just the fact that they're saying yes, but I don't want you to read it, or yes, I don't want to talk about it, what happened.
Yeah.
And then, that's some information which you can kind of ease into the conversation, mm-hmm. Over time.
And it also gives the child an opportunity to like set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, mm-hmm. I'm going to be honest with you, but no, I'm not ready to talk about it.
Exactly.
And that I think is an important tool in and of itself. Mm-hmm. Like that gives the parents a tool to have the conversation, but also like the kid a way to like assert themselves and their feelings and their boundaries, which I think is equally as important. Which is really cool. I think these things are so important, especially now when everybody's like zoned in on their phones, or and I still know a lot of families that like have family dinner time and you have to put your phone away, and I think that is super important.
Yep.
And like in my house we do that on Sundays. And I just think like this is just one more way to connect.
Yes, I agree.
And that person to person connection is super important.
And I'm glad you brought up the thing about putting phones away. That was another thing I had in mind with everything I do, because we focused a lot on the journals, but my company, as I mentioned before, my company started out as a stationery company, note cards, thank you note cards, and things like that. To me, somebody called me old-fashioned.
Really?
But I value the written thank you card.
Yes.
I don't want somebody to text me, TY.
No. But TY, like, you may as well not text me.
Exactly. And so, one thing I also tell parents, I mentioned to parents, is that, this is a place where your child can go and it's not on the phone.
Right.
It's getting away from technology, taking time to, kind of be quiet and just sit and be alone with their own thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And, technology is a reality and it's here to stay. I understand that. But I think we should also value the time away from our technology.
Yes.
And, although I really am away from mine.
I know. But, we sit here and say that, but
exactly. But still, I mentioned that one thing that is important for each journal is to have something about being grateful, about mm-hmm. gratitude. I encourage kids to write thank you notes. I think in the upcoming journal and in the summer one, there's definitely a page to thank somebody. Mm. And I encourage kids not only to just fill out that page, but also, write this person a thank you note. Talk to your mom or dad about writing this person a thank you note.
Right.
And I also plan on including a little thank you note.
Oh,
each of them,
nice.
Because I think people should do that.
To send, I think people should do that too. And
by the way, thank you for your thank you note.
Oh, you got it?
I got it. Yeah.
That's so funny. We're talking about it now.
Yeah.
But I knew when I started my business, because I try to send thank you notes mm-hmm. for like everything. Like my friends send me things, or mm-hmm. Or just for Valentine's mm-hmm. Day. Mm-hmm. Like my mom, we make fun of my mom because she leaves notes everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like you might find a toilet paper tube with some notes on it, like in the bathroom.
So
yeah. But she has always been, so she leaves notes for everything everywhere, but she's always made a point to leave us mm-hmm. notes, like personally, if mm-hmm. you're going on a trip, like a little note in your suitcase, or
that's so sweet.
For your birthday. Yeah, just
mm-hmm.
little cute things. Like I'm sure it was in our lunches too. I don't remember. So, but mm-hmm. it takes her like 2 minutes.
And it takes a couple minutes, and the impact is significant. I've had so many grandparents come up to my table when I have a vendor event and have my note cards and other things, and they say consistently, I wish my grandchild would write me a thank you note. Oh. But their mom or their dad doesn't make them, so what can I do? I mean, I've heard that line so many times.
It's so sad.
And grandparents like to hear from the kids on the phone, call grandma and say her thank you, they love that. But there's something about receiving something in the mail.
Yes.
And, seeing that little, 5-year-old handwriting, mm-hmm. It's not going to be thrown away. Mm-hmm. It just isn't.
Yeah, you hold on to those things forever. Mm-hmm. I have an aunt, my Aunt Ethel, my great Aunt Ethel is like 92 now. Mm-hmm. And my mom and I both send her things, and she only writes me back. It's really funny. But I don't know why. Sorry, Mom. She likes me better. But even now, my mom was like, you need to send Aunt Ethel, like it's her birthday, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I probably missed the birthday, but I sent her a Valentine's Day, and I got mm-hmm. like a really like $5 fancy card with glitter and stuff, and I sent it to her, and she like wrote back within the week. Yeah. And this woman is 92.
Yes, people. But it's not just a 92-year-old, like an older generation thing. Much younger people. Yes. It's just there's something about something, like written, something that's I don't know.
It's tangible.
It's tangible, and it just indicates a different level of I don't know thought.
And it like it's a personal touch. Mm-hmm. And I know people who have like tattooed their grandmas like mm-hmm. love you, things like that. But my friends all send thank you cards. Mm-hmm. Like if we visit each other. Like I went to Virginia, and they sent me a thank you for visiting. Yeah. And I sent them like little card. And so I think we're pretty good about sending cards.
Right.
And even if we don't make, honestly, like I never send a card on time. So you probably get a card every other time but your birthday, but because I'll forget. But
I'm the same way. My husband, talks to me all the time because he is the best about picking out the perfect card.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, I should have pulled them out. I mean, it's just amazing. Like, how'd you find this card? And he
Like
goes,
for you specifically?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's just weird. And I sometimes am a little bit lackadaisical. He thinks I am, but it's not because I don't remember. It's because my intention is always to make my own, to draw my own illustration. Like I did this, and I want to buy one, blah blah blah. So then it ends up being kind of last minute. Because But he is like the card king.
Wow.
And he will totally laugh at me and criticize me and make fun of me and make me, remember about what he did as far as the card thing and how like, oh, you're the card lady. Where's my card?
Right.
Thank you for the birthday card.
But so, I mean, like, how much time does he spend in the card section? Because I can spend a lot of time over there.
Okay, well, I can't see him doing that. I can
So he's
see,
just that good? He just like,
I
okay.
think he just, I don't know, he goes to Target, because I think the most they come from Target.
Yeah. Well, Target has really good cards.
It's big cards, and he just, I don't know, a card, I don't know, just kind of speaks to him pretty quickly. I don't know.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's weird.
But when you're creating something, like I wanted to make my best friend and her soon-to-be daughter, like I wanted to make her the baby robe and the matching baby robe, the mom robe, the baby robe, and then dad got a little t-shirt with a matching pocket. And I sewed all these.
Wow.
But then I was like rushing because I was going to Virginia. And so then I'm like, okay, I can rush and try to get it done and give it to them in person. Or my mom was like, just take your time and mail it for the baby shower. I'm like, no, I have to give it to them in person. But then honestly, I showed up and like half it, the robe was done, the mom robe. But the baby robe, I was like stitching on the plane. And this guy next to me, his name was Butch. Butch was like, we were the only two in the emergency room. And I got a whiskey because I had free Southwest tickets, drink tickets. And Butch is just like looking at the whiskey, looking at me sewing, hand stitching on a plane. And he's like, are you single? Like, yeah, what do you think? No, he didn't say that, but anyway. But yeah, he was concerned for my love life. He did tell me later. He's like, you're getting kind of old.
Thank you.
No, what did he say? You're an old soul, I can tell. Okay, but yeah. But anyway, when you
you're hand sewing, yeah.
But when you want to be like, when you're creative and you want to give someone like a personal, thoughtful gift, then it's hard because that ends up getting like the timelines get pushed.
Exactly.
But it's a meaningful gift if you get it a month later.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, yeah, I think so, but my husband would totally disagree with that. Totally disagree.
Maybe you need to like stockpile some
I
cards.
know. I've actually been thinking the last couple weeks. Isaiah's birthday, my son's birthday is April 4th, and my sister's birthday is April 12th, and my mother's birthday is May 24th, and the Mother's Day, and then there's Father's Day. There's Easter, and there's all these things. I'm like, okay, so you got to do something.
Yeah. You just had to spend a day just for your family.
I know.
So do you still hand draw cards for people?
I generally don't do it specifically. Like that's part of my problem. I always want to do a special card for whoever, whether it's my husband or my son or my sister. And then, I can then integrate it into my line. But again, I always keep running out of time. So, in my mind I do, but in reality it doesn't really happen. Yeah.
So then I guess the option is like, give it to them 3 months later or just go
buy
one.
No, they will not appreciate that at all. No.
Right.
No.
So do you buy them?
So I buy them, yes. I go to Target.
Yes,
I go to Target too.
Confessions of a card maker.
Exactly.
But do you judge everything at Target? You're like, oh, yeah?
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
Yeah, that's hard.
I spend a lot of time in the card section. I do.
But you never did you ever have any propositions to buy your cards or your work or like sell them in mass production?
Oh, yeah. My cards, when I first started this business, the first 10, 15 years, I, for the most part, well, first like few years, like 5, 6 years, it was all wholesale.
Okay.
And my cards have been in Target. My
Wow.
Christmas cards have been in Target. I've been in other large retailers, Nordstrom, Carson's, and Marshall Field's, and lots of smaller stores across the country. I used to go to the National Stationery Show every year.
Wow.
And and with the direction of my company now, with the guided journals, my focus is on getting them into schools, but I do have them in a few stores, my plan is to have them in stores, across the country, and other products which support them. So I am working on a line of birthday cards with the whole super power theme, encouragement cards and things like that. And my plan is that they will have a presence in retailers across the country.
So how did you get your cards into those retail stores?
Well, back then, when that was really all I did, it was through a combination. I would just call the stores, make appointments, and sell them. My sister was very helpful in the first few years. She lived in the D.C. area. I was in Chicago, so she would, in her spare time, she would go to all these different stores, and she would just make,
So she was your salesperson.
She's my salesperson. And I did that in Chicago area. We would go to the National Stationery Show in New York each year.
Gosh.
And that's the best way to just reach a whole bunch of retailers at one time. Now, I have thought about going back to the National Stationery Show, and I keep putting it off. It's a very expensive thing to do. And so I still might do that. But now it's been more like, referrals from friends and doing a little bit of cold calling. I had a salesperson who worked for me last year. But it really, wholesale is not a priority for me right now. So, because I think the best way for me to get my products out to the intended audience is through schools.
And so you're going to start more, we're doing like more of a ground marketing, like here locally.
For as far as getting to the stores, or for?
No, for your superpower books for the schools.
For school, yeah. I'm definitely starting locally, but my vision is national.
Right.
So right now I'm working on the curriculum that will offer this to schools, so that basically it's a superpower curriculum in a box. So if the school buys a curriculum, they'll get the journals, they'll get, details as to how to implement it in their classroom. And so my goal is to have that in schools across the country within, a fairly short period.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yes, according to my marketing strategist, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. I mean, you're already doing it. Like all of the, it's happening. It just takes time, but it takes
time, but I think if I get this curriculum done, and it should be done by the end of April, it's just a matter of starting contacting schools. So I think that it can happen rather quickly. I mean, when I say quickly, I don't mean within 3 months.
Yeah, not tomorrow.
Right, but I think I believe that I can have the curriculum in some schools for the 2018-2019 school year. And then even a larger number of the following school year. I already have some connections at some schools, some public schools. I'm going to really start to contact private schools probably next month. And I'm thinking that it's reasonable for me to see this curriculum in some schools. Like I said, the 2018-2019 school year.
Oh my gosh. We'll have to have another podcast 1 year from now. No,
exactly.
6 months. And we'll just check in and see where it's all gone.
Yes, so I'm very excited about it.
I think now is a good time to end it.
To end it,
yeah,
yes.
We've been talking for a while.
Exactly.
Is there anything else you want to say?
Just thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for being here.
And if anybody's interested in learning more about my curriculum or my line of superpower journals, visit my website.
And what's your website?
Stacey for EYMdesign.com.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.